Okay, so I'm having a slight problem with the lower ball joint right here. And what you're seeing is the Porter-Built Fab front end and the ball joints that are sold with this kit. The ball joint is pressed in to the bottom of this lower bag mount. Let me show that to you right here. Once that's pressed in, this ball joint comes with a dust boot right here, and when the spindle is put onto the ball joint, the boot gets crushed. Like, look how bad that is. Super crushed. Now, I've reached out to Porter-Built and I spoke to Brandon about this, and he doesn't really have a remedy. He hasn't gotten back to me. So I've got an idea, and that's what this video is all about. Okay, let's talk about this ball joint right here. The ball joint that you see right here for this lower bag mount, I got the lower bag mount. This is all part of the Porter-Built Fab front drop member. It came with these ball joints right here that had this dust boot right here. The problem that I have is this boot is so large that when the drop spindle drops on this, it crushes that boot. It crushes it a lot. It crushes it all the way down to like that. Let me show you what I have found. In the previous shot, I showed you how the boot of the ball joint was overly crushed, all the way down like that. It was just creasing, and as you can see, it's kind of deformed the ball joint dust cap quite a bit. So if we see right here, this dust cap, as it goes on this ball joint, it is the same size as this steel ring where the ball joint is pressed in from underneath. Inside this boot, I think there's like a little steel ring in here, and this is designed to just sit right here. When this ball joint, before it was installed, this boot actually sat around the body of this ball joint. Then the ball joint has another larger section that's pressed in. So since putting this boot on and then pushing down the spindle crushes this boot, I have a sacrificial boot right here that I've used. And what I've done is I've cut a little bit off of it. Let me show you that right there. I've cut a little bit off the bottom of this sacrificial boot. And if I do this, when this slides on, I get that boot to sit down into that groove. So now when I put the drop spindle on right here, look what the boot does. It folds out like a tire, and that's kind of what we're looking for. So I'm gonna cut both of the boots that I have, both of these rubber dust caps, really what they are, I keep calling them boots. I'm gonna cut the bottoms off both of my boots. I'm gonna allow that to slide into this groove, and then that'll allow me to put on the drop spindle and crush the boot about down to there, and then I can push in grease to just fill that up. Okay, so this is what we're going to do here with this ball joint. Right now this ball joint has some grease in it. I don't know what type of grease that is. It's some sort of a dark charcoal color ball joint grease. So since I don't know what grease is in there, I'm going to put in the red and tacky grease using my pneumatic grease gun. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to purge this. I'm going to put my red and tacky in here, try to purge out the grease that's in there, wipe that out so I've got fresh grease. Okay, it looks like I got the grease out that was shipped. And then I'm going to use a little bit of paper towel and just get in here and get any of that grease out that fell in that groove between the powder coating and the top of this ball joint. There we go. Okay, like I've said before, I took this ball joint dust cap and I cut off the bottom. So here's about how much I cut off. Not much. You can see my cut isn't even. And then what I did is I just took some really sharp scissors and went through and made this as flat as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide on this ball joint right here. Right, I'm going to kind of get it started. I might need to move the ball joint around so this just starts evenly going in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a couple pumps. Okay, that's good. I'm just going to kind of twist this. And what's going on right now is it's actually trapping a bunch of air in here, right? I can move the grease around. And then what I did on the other side is I just took this little pick tool, just kind of got in there easily, and just evacuated some of the air trapped in there. Yeah, I can feel it filling up now. Starting to fill up, just like that. Beautiful. Let me try to evacuate a little bit more air. Good. Okay, I'm happy with that. I can feel it staying right there. It's got like a little vacuum on it. It's heavy. Okay, beautiful. Drop the top down. Okay, we're in. Feels pretty good. It looks a lot better. It definitely looks healthy. More healthier than it was before. Let me give it a pump. I think I'm good right there. I feel like it filled it up. We'll let that go. I can always add more grease or they can't take any out. Well, unless I maybe undo the Zerk fitting, which I'm not really trying to do. So that's what it looks like. That looks 100% better than the way it was before, right? So I'm just going to put this castle nut on right now. Get that started. And this castle nut up here as well for the upper ball joint. Now that I have all this put together, I really need to torque down this castle nut right here for the lower ball joint, and of course that castle nut right there for this upper ball joint. So where exactly are we going to find torque specs? I've reached out to CPP and I'm unable to get any kind of torque specs. They're actually not even responding. They're not answering their phones and they're not responding to emails right now. So I've also called Porterbuilt Suspension to try to get information on any torque specs, and they just don't have any torque specs, and I'm on my own. Thank you for purchasing, but you're on your own. So this is what I got. At the last swap meet, there was a vendor that was selling owner's manuals, just old manuals. And what I found over there was this 1975 Chevrolet light duty service manual. And I'm going to use this manual as a guide to figure out what my torque specs are and to kind of help me put some of these aftermarket parts into perspective when it comes to like torquing things down and bolting things up. So here's what we got, and I hope this is really helpful. If we're going to tighten up the upper ball joint right here, it's got a spec in there. So the upper ball joint, there you go, right there. The upper ball joint is going to be 50 foot-pounds. And then we come down here, has an asterisk next to it, and the asterisk is telling us that plus an additional torque to align the cotter pin, not to exceed 90 foot-pounds maximum. Look, that extremely helps me out. I mean, that really helps me out. I could just torque the upper ball joint to 50 pounds and then turn it a little bit more to align the cotter pin on the castle nut. How about the lower ball joint? Look at this lower ball joint. Lower ball joint is actually 90 foot-pounds. I would have never known that. 90 foot-pounds. So it's got a double asterisk, and that's telling us plus additional torque to align cotter pin not to exceed 130 foot-pounds maximum. So I just want to put these torque specs in this video to help maybe some of you guys that are out there that are just using your impact and then, hey, you're good to go. You know, maybe this video might help you understand that, look, there are some torque specs in relationship to this castle nut on the bottom ball joint and this castle nut on the upper ball joint. As a matter of fact, there's also torque specs in this book of these lower A arms, upper A arms, and those are torque specs that I could actually use as a guide when torquing down all my suspension parts. You and I both know that the last thing that we want is tighten everything down, just use your impact, torque things down, and you know, you drive it around and then you got to get back into this thing and reach maybe hard to reach bolts. Some of these bolts I'm not going to be able to get to once this motor and headers are in. Rims and tires, finished paintwork, inner fenders. I really hope this information helps. Oh, caliper mounting bolt. Check this out. Caliper mounting bolt is supposed to be torqued down to 35 foot-pounds. I'm going to torque all 4 of those bolts down to 35 just like the book says, and I'm going to feel a lot more confident that things aren't going to loosen up. One last thing that I want to add is I also have a Haynes service manual for this truck, and underneath the ball joints, just go to the index, look up ball joints. It starts at 10.4. I'm at 10.6. I'm at 10.6 as I turn the pages. And if we scroll down to number 14 here, reconnect the ball joints and steering knuckle and tighten the nuts to the specified torque, right? If the cotter key does not line up with the opening in the castellated nut, tighten, never loosen the nut just enough to allow installation of the cotter pin. Now, we already know this, but the problem with this manual right here is it's telling you to tighten to the specified torque. Well, what's the specified torque, you ask? That's why you need this companion light-duty service truck. This is going to help you out. It's definitely helped me out. So in the back, under all, it's got every torque spec you need. Front suspension, bolt torque, it's all in foot-pounds. It's lined out for the C10, the C20 and 30, the K series, the G series. I'm a C10, so I'm just going to scroll on down here. Upper ball joint, 50 pounds. Lower ball joint nut, 90 pounds. So it's important that if you are trying to put your truck together with factory stuff or even aftermarket, that, yeah, it's great to have this as a reference, but you also need to have the torque spec of what Chevrolet intended certain nuts to be torqued to. Today I'm going to do a product review of this Lock and Lube pneumatic grease gun that I got off of Amazon. Here's the unit right here. Here's the grease gun, and here's the tube. I've already gone ahead and taken the grease gun and went ahead and just used some Teflon tape and put all the fittings together. I haven't done this one yet. So I got to do this fitting right here, and it came with this moisture trap and this male end for my airline hose. This looks and feels like it's made pretty well. I like how it came with all the fittings and everything that you need to get going, including the moisture trap. And I really like how this has a little storage Zerk fitting right there to lock the head of the grease gun so it's just not flapping around. This is a bleeder tube, so as you're refilling the cartridge, you can bleed out any air pockets right here. So the instructions say that I need to just take this guy right here. I'm going to be using Red and Tacky, and we're going to drop this into the tube, and then we're supposed to just screw this on lightly. And then I'm supposed to put this rod back down. Okay, right there. So now I'm supposed to hook this up to my airline and bleed this out. Okay. Oh, nice. So after you get that done, then it says once the grease starts flowing out the coupler, tighten the barrel and begin greasing your equipment. It says tighten this up, right? Beautiful. So far this is working out pretty good. I don't see anything leaking out of any of the joints of the coupling. It pumped up perfect. I just followed the instructions, just getting it loaded up. Everything sounds good. It seems to be pumping the grease pretty good. So the next thing I got to do is actually try it out.
Yeah, it's actually growing. There was something. There was two people.
Oh, I know why. I'm an idiot. I know exactly why this isn't working. Probably gonna break it before I own it. I didn't open up the canister. Just gonna open up the canister right here. Bam. Okay, now it should work. Okay, here we go. Ooh.